I was going to ask
Oh,
you.
good. I wanted that off the record. Okay. Hello, welcome to the presentation tonight. What I'm going to talk tonight about getting you a quota of POTA. And it's really not just about POTA, it's about portable ops in general. And Steve, thank you or Gary, thank you for showing me this magic device here to advance the screen.
Pointed at the TV.
Pointed at the TV. I think I broke it. All right, technical. Okay. Portable ops. So really portable ops is getting OTA on the air. You could do parks, summits. I'm not going to read it. Drew dropped that new one on us tonight. SCOTA, not Supreme Court on the air. Science centers on the air. There's everything. JOTA, Jamboree on the air, youth on the air. The whole idea is getting on the air. That's why it's on the air, OTA. My personal thanks goes out to the late Joe Everhart, November 2 Charlie X-ray, who was one of the pioneers in the recent phase of portable operations, going back to 2016. And of course, I have to thank the POTA family. It's all volunteers, including myself. How did I get started? I was licensed a long time ago. Hard to believe. I was in kindergarten 40 years ago. 2016. What's memorable about 2016? Well, it was the 100th anniversary of the National Park System. So the ARRL sponsored NPOTA, National Parks on the Air. And it was a year-long adventure to get out to activate to and from the national parks throughout the country. That caught my attention. A big part of the motivation was Joe's presentation that he did at one of the clubs. I'm going to quote Victor Borga, who's not a ham, but a great performer, who said, you know, the original quote is, "I'd like to thank the audience for making this, possible, and thank my children for making it necessary." My paraphrase is, "I'd like to thank portable operations for making this possible. I'd like to thank my neighbors for making it necessary." I moved from a development where the neighbors were noisy and nosy. I put an antenna out on the terrace, and all of a sudden they say, "Hey, my television's not working." It's not plugged in. It's not connected. It's not, it's just, it's just that. Plus, I lived this far from a hospital with their paging antennas, their cell site on the roof. I lived this far from the town's water tower where all the police and emergency service radios were. Plus, I lived this far from a 13,000 kilovolt or volt, whatever, transformer, pad transformer. And I lived this far from the electric meters, which were all wireless. All I got was noise. So out I went in the field. So 2016, I bought my first and only new radio. Drove down to Delaware, Labor Day weekend, bought it, loved it, QRP. And since then, I've expanded my collection of radios. Why do I do it? I ask myself that all the time. Why, oh, why, oh, why, oh? Couple of good reasons. Good to get out. Good to get out of the house. If you have wives, spouses, significant others, kids, whatever, good to get out of the house. It's really cool being on this side of a pileup without going to some exotic tropical island. Hunters, I'll explain what hunters are in a minute, getting away from the noise. I could definitely use the exercise, believe me. This sweatshirt, by the way, is padded. I'm really and of course, many more good reasons, I think. Here's some examples of operating from the outdoors. My favorite is the fellow in the lower right corner, KA2YRA, Kent Osell, who just about lives in that trailer in Utah, in like a Bureau of Land Management sites, and he just lives there. He's totally off the grid. He's pretty amazing. And he's always on the air. He is always on the air. A great guy. Some of the others, there's a lighthouse sitting on the beach, sitting in a park. There's me when I couldn't find my razor. So what we did, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, sometimes you can combine your portable operations with other things like special events. So here are two special events we did. This one happens to be an Earth Day at Patterson Great Falls. It happens to be a national park, a national historic site. Park Rangers invited us, the club, to come and set up an exhibit for school students who would come in to learn about the environment. And it was literally right in the, whatever, next to the falls. Alexander Hamilton invented this or something.
There's a hydro station, isn't it there?
Yeah, the hydroelectric station is that brick building on the left. I saw a picture of this from a few days ago, and the water, that's the Passaic River, the water is totally filling that thing. The flooding is tremendous. The other one over on the left side here, we're up in Bear Mountain for a Boy Scout camp reunion anniversary celebration. So what's really cool about it, we're able to, celebrate the Scouts, plus do an activation from a state park with the great you had asked about, the cooperation of the park management. We were able to show them and convince them, and they trusted us, and we came through with a positive experience. We didn't make a mess, we didn't obstruct things, we didn't break anything. We followed their rules, which were very reasonable. They didn't want anything or anybody hanging in the trees, nothing nailed into the ground. Don't endanger anybody, and keep it clean. I mean, that's the whole idea. These people are dedicated and passionate about protecting these national resources, and we respect that. That's why we're out there. I encourage questions, by the way. Lighthouses. I mentioned lighthouses on the air, trails. We'll talk about that. Here's a trip I took through some parks in Pennsylvania. Some other guys, some friends operating there. Okay, POTA. POTA is not the only portable operation solution. It's turned out to be I would say definitely the most popular, almost addictive facet of portable operations. There are some like 50,000 registered users in the Parks on the Air system. Considering there are about 750,000 licensed hams in the US, that's pretty amazing. There are over 100 countries that have POTA entities, that have POTA sites within them. The US by far is the largest with over 10,000 sites. New York has the largest number of sites in the US, over 800. New Jersey only has 100. And I feel responsible for that because I'm also the mapping rep for New Jersey. So my pleasure, I'm proud to do it, is to keep track and keep updating the POTA map for New Jersey. And I'll show you that in a moment. The list of all the sites that are in New Jersey where you can go to and put some updates in there. So it's good news, bad news. I get to evaluate, based on input and feedback, but I also sometimes have to cut a park that is not eligible for POTA. What makes a park eligible for POTA? I don't know. Can someone tell me?
Has to be at least a state park. They don't do county parks or city parks or anything like that. State parks, federal parks, stuff like that. And a large part of that is just because of the sheer amount of parks, as you can see. If they included city and county, and it would be insurmountable.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But they also do stuff like the BLM, you said, the land
Yeah.
management, like forests, stuff like that. It's not just parks,
Right.
but it is a bulk of what they do.
Yeah, correct. No, absolutely. Thanks, Josh. It's,
I think they've changed some of those rules recently where they are for a long time, they weren't considering new parks and now they are. And I think they are sliding on the state park rule, but it's got a
Oh, no, no,
lot of
so-
requirements.
so good
Can
point,
you
good
please
point.
look at Your phone.
Yeah, up until the middle or towards the end of last year, they put a hold on adding sites in the US. What they were working on was adding other countries.
Yeah.
So now that's open. So now where the embargo has been lifted, we're able to add sites in New Jersey. The qualifications still remain the same. State or national, federal, state, whatever. And even though it may have state in the name, if it's not managed by a state or federal agency, like it could be a conservancy, it could be some other kind of group, a nonprofit group, it will not qualify. So there are some, plus it needs to be a little bit larger than a postage stamp. You know, there are some sites around that are literally, you know, this big. It also needs to be accessible. It does need to be accessible. It cannot be in a, you know, restricted or forbidden place to enter. That would be, it doesn't have to be easy to get to. It just has to be legal to get to. So by that, I mean, it could be an island and you need a boat. So I went out to Long Island once. I went to look for this park and I didn't do my research well enough to realize this is an island. And I get there and I'm looking around. It's like, where the heck is it? And I'm there. Okay, there's Long Island Sound, and there it is out there. And then I did a little more research, and it said access by boat. I don't have a boat. I could have bought a boat, or I don't swim that well. But so that's the rules and regulation. So we're in the process now of adding. New York added about a dozen or so a few months ago. You know, added some new sites. Certainly if a new site is legislated as a park or, you know, a eligible entity, it will be added. You know, if tomorrow the 3 national parks were just added to the system, to the national park system, those will get added. But the existing ones go through a review process. I have the honor of reviewing parks in New Jersey. Why? Because I used to live right next to New Jersey. I used to live in Suffern, which is right on the New York-New Jersey border. So great thing about living so close to New Jersey is cheap gas, no deposit on cans and bottles, and no tax in the county, no tax on clothing.
And Jersey barriers.
And the Jersey barriers, yes, and no left turns. You cannot make a left turn in New Jersey, by the way. You cannot make a left turn in New Jersey. So Route 17, I lived at the other end of Route 17. There was no traffic light from where I lived to, I don't think anywhere. There is one somewhere, but it's not even active. But here you can make left turns. It's a good thing. Wonderful thing. UPS routes their trucks not to make left turns, by the way. They specifically route their trucks, their routing, to not make left turns for a couple of reasons. One, it's really dangerous because you're going in, I'm sidetracking, but left turns. I was telling Steve I broke the cardinal rule of presentations. You should only have 3 bullet points on a slide. So picture this as 18 different slides, each one having only 3 on it. So operating portable, what's operating portable? It's getting out of the comfort of your home, your couch, your comfortable chair, the heat, the refrigerator, the bathroom nearby. So you need to bring with you or have available somehow all those things. The worst thing is getting there and realizing you forgot something, like your radio.
Like your radio.
Like your microphone. Thank you. It's happened. It happens. Or your key or your power cord or your coaxial cable or your antenna or this, that, or the other thing. Or even worse, having it and finding it doesn't work. or having it and realize you don't really know how to operate it all that well. So practice, practice, practice. Expect the unexpected, plan for it, enjoy the unexpected. That's part of the fun is you're faced with a challenge. You're out there, you're like the pioneers crossing the country. Charge your batteries, that's real important. The second to last thing, take nothing but memories and photos and leave nothing but footprints. Leave no trace, carry in, carry out. My brother-in-law was an avid hiker and he loved the woods and he could never understand why people left empty beer cans behind. He said, it doesn't make sense. It's lighter when they're empty. Carry them out with you. You carry them in heavy. It's easy enough to carry them out with you, but so I've been to places where I'll carry an empty bag, a garbage bag and a scooper thing in the car, just pick up stuff. People forget not to be pigs.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
Have an exit strategy is
Yes.
an important thing. If you go to the Facebook groups, you have a lot of stories of people have run into, mostly wildlife is the problem, but sometimes it's bad people. So it's, and it's easy to lose situational awareness and try not to activate alone. I know people do it, but some of those areas are really backwoods.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're gonna run into.
So there have been, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. I have some slides coming up on that, but there have been situations where I've been in and I shouldn't have been there. Fat Jewish kid from Brooklyn. What am I doing in the middle of the woods on this dirt road, with the, fall off this way, fall off that way, single lane, God forbid someone's coming the other direction. Where do I go? If I broke down, who am I gonna call? No cell service. Oh, great, I could reach somebody in California or in England and, hey, can you call a tow truck or a lorry, whatever, I'm not sure what they're called. But there's a situational awareness is key critical. There have been a city kid also. I know there are places where, your spider sense kind of tingles and say, I shouldn't be here. There are places in Binghamton I've been to. And, I was talking to my son about it. He said, yeah, that's not a good place to go. Not a good place to go. And I, just kind of get a sense of it. Going alone is not always a good idea because things can happen. You're gonna get injured. Stuff happens, there's safety in numbers. But good point. So having the exit strategy is really important. Recently I went to a new park, Two Rivers, I think, out by Horseheads, past Elmira or in the Elmira area. And it's a 3/4 mile single lane road going in there. And once I got on it, I said, what am I doing here? And there was nowhere to turn around. So all I could do was just continue straight, and it was white knuckle the whole way. Oof. Not the first time. You think I'd know by now. We'll talk about safety. Yeah, there you go. Next slide. Did you skip ahead? Did you read?
I guess I did.
Is it leaking? So I love this sign. Hunters wear orange. And the reason that that's really cool in POTA specifically, there are two facets, two roles in POTA. One is an activator, the other is a hunter. And a slide will explain that. And when I first saw that sign, I said, wait a minute, I'm not a hunter, I'm an activator. I was out in the middle of a game land or somewhere, but it's safety. This picture here was I'm parked on the road and all of a sudden these two guys come out of the woods like heavily armed. And I said, oh my God, what's going on? And they were, coming back on a trail. I forget if they had rifles or bows and arrows or something. But they were cool. I mean, I was cool. I was obviously parked in an area where they're not going to hunt. But if I were in somewhere else, it could be risky. So wear orange, this, it would be a lot safer out of the plastic bag, of course, but an orange safety bag like that. I also learned the meaning of seasonal limited use highways. What was I thinking? I was just thinking, oh, they don't refill the paper towel machines in the restroom. No, they they don't do the roads.
You've been too
And
close to the city for too long.
I've been too close to, so yeah, no maintenance, no maintenance in the city, this is a pothole, bump, bump, bump. Here, it means this picture down here. You know,
Yep.
So I have I guess it's all-wheel drive, but it's the snow one. So, so this was, I misjudged the entrance to the parking lot. I'm stuck. I couldn't go forward. I couldn't go back. Well, I'm stuck. Luckily I was near Middletown, so I was near civilization, near population. Called tow truck, he came, winched me out. Month later, I get stuck in the same spot. I said, I know, I can, I know which way to go. I know, boom, stuck in the same spot. The only good news was a different tow truck came. Because I know if that same guy came, he'd say, see you in the spring.
Was it snow then or mud?
It was snow. No, it was deep, that was deep snow. Oh, I've been stuck in mud. Snow is worse. Snow and ice is the worst, because, mud, I was out last week and, I don't know where I was, but it was muddy. It was so muddy that I'm slipping and sliding. I'm standing, I'm kind of walking around the car to put the antenna up, and I have to hold on to the car to keep from sliding down the mud. I mean,
We gotta show you the ropes around here.
yeah, I would have held on to the rope, So how to POTA, and again, I'm focused on POTA, but this applies to portable ops in general. So you really, first thing you want to do in POTA, learn that website. Oh, and I'll show you when we get to the last slide. I missed it on the first slide. You can download this and there's a link to it. You can get all the links, whatever. POTA.app. POTA.app, it's a website. Everything you want to know about POTA, about Parks on the Air, is in there. You want to register. You want to learn. You want to read the documentation. I mean, it's excellent. There's videos, there's things you could read, there's things you cannot read, but you really should. The worst thing is going on Facebook, asking a question, and what do you get? You know the old expression? They're like elbows. Or opinions are like, they stink and everybody has them. I'm not gonna say
You
asshole.
get a lot of rude people. You
Yeah,
get helpful people and you get really rude people.
and you get people who are meaning to be helpful, but don't really know. They're like, so I was in, Sam's Club yesterday, and these two women were saying, oh, where's the soup? And I happen to know, the only thing I knew where it is in Sam's Club was the soup, because I just came from that aisle, and I said, ma'am, you go down that aisle, you make a left. Otherwise, I would have just been guessing. I have no clue. I wouldn't have said anything. But you get a lot of opinion. So anytime you have a question, if you haven't read about it, don't ask other people don't ask for opinions. It's all fact. Then there are the two phases, the two roles. An activator. What does an activator do? Activator sends in a log. That's what makes them an activator. An activator makes QSOs from parks and sends their log in.
Even if you have less than 10 contacts.
Especially if you have less than 10.
Because the hunters still get credit even if the activator doesn't.
Thank you, thank you. So even if you have one, and it's driven me crazy. I'll be at a place, so, you need 10 QSOs within the UTC day to qualify as an activation. Otherwise, it's an attempt. You're right on target. The hunter gets credit only if you send your login, okay? Only if you send the login. Now, the hunter does not need to send in a log. The hunter's stats are based on the activator's log. Like, so if I work you, if I'm the activator and you're the hunter, when I send my login, you'll get credit as a hunter. You could also be an activator and a hunter at the same time. And that's really cool. That's called a park to park. So if an activator works another activator, that's a park to park activation. That's really cool because you're both getting credit for it. What's the ground rules? You have to be, same band, the same mode, within 15 minutes of each other.
And not in the same park, if I recall.
You can be in the same
Oh, you
park.
can, but-
You can. I did ask that question. Because I wasn't sure. So what came to mind was like a small park, but I'm saying, wait a minute, the Appalachian Trail, 2,100-mile long park. You can't be the only person, operating, to someone else on the Appalachian Trail. But you can be within the same park. You can be within the same park. Now, if you work someone on a different mode, and a different band, it counts as another activation.
No, actually I ran, because I did a 10, I did a 40 and a 20 in the
Mhm.
same day, it was one activation.
A 40 and a 20. No, that should be two
It
activations.
was, and I checked the rules on it, it says anything that you do inside of a UTC day is one activation. So if you and I talk, because I didn't bring that up, if you and I talk, because you can, hey, Ford, 2 meters, let's bring it up 520, we gotta park to park.
That's not correct.
Check.
I'll double check,
Double
but
check.
No, 'cause what about
Because I
what
did-
about the guys that jump from park to park there? There's guys in Texas that they're on
Same,
a
it's gotta be the
Saturday.
same park, any band inside of a UTC day, because I submitted 2 logs, one for 40, one for 20, I got one
So it's
activation.
guys in
was there an
Texas that are
error?
jumping
Oh,
parks. that's
was there an error in one of them?
Nope, both were
Let me
accepted.
double check, but I'm
And
99.
I checked up the rules and it said any band within a UTCD, same park, it doesn't mean you go to a different park, that's a different activation. But one park, all bands inside of a day, in other words,
I'll double check.
zero to 2400,
Right,
and 2400 is 7 PM here. Right
Yes.
now,
right now it is, yeah.
double check, but that
I
was.
will
'cause
double
did-
check that,
I did
yeah.
check that, because I
Okay.
was confused about that, because I
I-
thought I'd get 2
I'm not
activations.
saying,
And I did
that's
not.
not right. I'm not saying you're not
And,
right.
because I had more than 10 contacts in both bands.
Well, that's the other thing. So if 10 is the minimum, always get more because something can go wrong. Yes, Jeff?
So I just looked it up on the website, multiple activities at the same park in the same state, province, entity, and the same UTC day count as a single activation, provided that 10 or more QSOs combined were made.
Yeah, no.
Read it
mention of
again.
bands.
Count as a single, provided that
It's the same UTC day,
same
same
UTC
place,
day, same park,
and you get 10 or more contacts.
and you get 10 or more. But if you got
Not all
9
bands.
and 2 were, I may be wrong. I know for sure it's modes
You
are,
could get-
modes are unique.
8 on 20 and 2 on 40, and that's an activation.
Yep.
I'll triple check. I may be wrong, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
it's
you.
been within the last month. I
Yeah,
had to deal
no,
with
that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Oh, what's really cool, you can submit logs from previous activities. Canarsie Pier in Brooklyn, along the Belt Parkway, I activated there years ago. I happened to be driving past it. It's between the Verrazano Bridge and Kennedy Airport. It's a fishing pier. I used to go there with my grandfather as a kid. And I did activations there, and it was in my log. Years later, it became a POTA site. I submitted the logs. I got credit for it years later. I might have been the first one, you don't get an award for what's called ATNO, all-time new one. It's just kind of cool, but doesn't mean anything. So if you do an activation and you log it, and then it becomes a POTA site, put the login, you get credit for it. We'll cover logging in a moment.
What's ADEF?
ADIF, so ADIF is the amateur to do whatever, it's the format that ham logs are used for. It's something AD interchange format. It's a standard file format for submitting logs. Logs.
QRZ, Logbook of the World,
Yes.
N3, JFP, all when you can export to ADIF, then you just upload it to the website,
Yeah.
and it's processing does its thing.
The other one the other one you may run into is Cabrillo. Cabrillo is another file format that's used a lot in contests. And it's, similar, another way of presenting log information, but ADIF or ADI.
Yeah, hey, Steve,
Yeah.
ADIF is Amateur Data Interchange Format.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes sense. Amateur data interchange format. It's a standard format. It's used when you submit your log to POTA. Now,
And
Or a
it's,
bunch of other places. too.
or many other places.
and
That's
it's,
right.
there's a really good description in the POTA documentation of what fields inside that ADIF that you need to include, because how do you tell them, what park were you in? Was this a park to
Right.
park? How do you log multiple when guys have a 2 for park? They're in 2 parks. How do you log that? And I had to fight through that, but it's really good documentation, I'm
Oh,
telling
yeah,
you.
that's
Good.
another thing, you
One
can
field
feed
to
2
do
parks
it.
at the same time.
Yes, so we're gonna cover 2 for. So logging, we'll hit logging and then I'll tell you how now submitting those ADIF files is so much better than it was.
What's nice about ADAF, it works with any logging software.
Yes,
If you have one kind and another and it's an ADAF, everybody,
it's universal. It's absolutely, thanks. Ed. So on POTA, this is POTA.app, POTA app. The POTA map is really cool. Now, each of these yellow dots, this is a screenshot. I could go live if you want. This is a screenshot of this area.
yeah, Vestal.
Yeah, there's Vestal. So each of those yellow dots is a POTA site. On the live map, that's online, if you were to click on any of those yellow dots, it would open up an info window that shows you the park number, description about it, how many times it's been activated, a link to more information about that particular park. A really, really good device, a good tool for knowing where the parks are. But where does it fall short?
Doesn't tell you the actual boundaries.
It doesn't tell you the boundaries, but when you go, it'll give you a link to the mapping. What the POTA site's 2,100 miles long. Appalachian Trail has 1 dot. I mean, if it had 2,100 miles worth of dots, it would cover the whole globe. That's a gap, so it'll give you a general location. If I could go to the website and show you, if you clicked on that, it would bring you up, this park is K-1234, this is where it is, lat launch, some comments, and it would give you a link to the map of the park, whether it's from the state or the federal, National Park Service, the DEC, whatever, and that'll give you an actual map of the park, a detailed map of the park and boundaries.
What I couldn't find on there was the rules for the park. Kind of throw an antenna up in a tree, can I do
The
this?
rules or whatever that Randy
Yeah.
decides.
At that time. would-
Yeah.
And I'm not being facetious with that, it is.
Yeah.
So I've heard of cases where one ranger lets at this park get away with throwing a wire in the tree, and the next day the activator comes back and says, no, you can't do wires because I say so.
And you know why they don't want wires in the trees is if the wire could abrade the bark, it could cause damage to the tree.
Or it could just get stuck up there.
It could get stuck, you ever see fishing lines left, on the side of a fishing place, there's all the string, it's a mess. And there's danger, there's risk. When we did the activation at Bear Mountain, the Boy Scout thing, we had to be really careful, and they came around and checked. Hey, there's nothing here that someone's gonna trip over or walk into, put red flags and everything. Safety is very important, like personal safety as well as the site safety is key critical. But you're right, 10,000 parks in the US, sometimes you get 10,000 interpretations. The best rule is be cool and be polite, be cool, be an ambassador of ham radio. Because I know we spoke about before, all hams are judged by the worst behavior, by the behavior of the worst, example. It's not fair, but I've done activations where I spent very little time operating because most of the time I'm talking with people. Funniest thing is, I'll use a fishing pole to run the antenna up and someone will come over and say, oh, what are you catching? Damn, I'm like 10 miles from the water, I'm not that bad a fishing person. And then you get an opportunity to explain. And what do you hear most often when you tell someone you're doing ham radio? What's it?
That's still a thing?
Do people still do that? Or my great
Or what's
grandfather?
in radio.
What's ham radio or CB? My uncle had a CB radio. You talk about it. And what's cool about portable ops, it's many benefits to it that people can relate to. It's a chance to get out in nature. It's a chance to prepare for emergency communications. It's a chance to get away from whatever nonsense is going on at home. You know, it's a chance to, whatever, water some trees. So POTA sites, you'll find them here. If you were to click, you know, you can search also for it. We could do that. Now, so what I did is I took that map of dots and I personalized it to myself. So the green dots are ones that I've activated. The red dots are ones I've not activated yet. And if you notice, there's a pattern. You know,
Looks like you got some work to do.
I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of work to do. So in New Jersey, I've activated 60 out of the 100. So I still have 40 more parks in New Jersey to do. I still have a bunch in New Jersey. And if I add more parks to it, then I just make more work for myself. So I think I'm going to add the parks before I get down to South Jersey. Friend of mine just hunted each of the parks in New Jersey, and that was pretty cool. You know, he made a connection. He contacted an activator in each of the 100 parks in New Jersey, which was very cool. Now, what's this big gap up here? Adirondacks, absolutely, one dot. There's one dot covering the whole Adirondacks.
So probably had around that park, right?
It's huge, it's huge. It's huge. So a lot of what I've done up here, I've done when I've been visiting my son and grandkids over the last couple of years. Lately, the last year was not a good year for me. I was off the air. There was some medical things. I moved. Last year was not a good year for radio. I'm glad to be here. So yeah, I do have a lot of work to do. So South Jersey, Eastern Long Island, New York, 833 parks in New York. Pennsylvania, they had recently added a ton in Pennsylvania. But I also set this up that if I were to click on one of those, it would open up that same information about it. What's nice about this, I don't remember, you know, I've done 322 parks, and I don't remember all of them. So spotting is a cool thing. We touched on it before. When you're activating, or if you're an activator or a hunter, like where do the hunters know where to go hunt? Who was the bank robber? That said, they asked him, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. So where would a hunter go? Where where the activators are. So there's a part of the POTA.app website called spots. And you can you go in there, you put in, okay, I'm at this park, on this frequency, in this mode, now, whatever. And it's updated frequently.
It auto updates the pager on every minute.
Yes, it updates. I think they changed it, but it will keep it updated. You can also update it if you work somebody. You know, you can click, hey, okay, I worked you at this park, you had a good signal. You'll also notice in here something called RBN.
Reverse Beacon Network.
Absolutely, Reverse Beacon Network. Reverse Beacon Network is a system of stations that listen to CW and digital and decode and post that information. Now, how do they know what park you're at? They don't. Unless you put in that you're scheduled to be at this park, you know, at such and such a day. Then it'll match it up for you.
Which you can do.
Yes, yeah.
You know you're gonna be on a cruise ship in 3 weeks, it's going someplace, you can tell it, I'm gonna be here at this time.
Absolutely, and then it'll pop up and you'll be there. Because I've been to parks where there is no, hey, we've all been there, there's no cell coverage. And you need that to spot because it's all done over the internet. There are ways you could spot using text messaging, using APRS, using some other things.
JSA, WinLink.
WinLink, JS8, and the old fashioned, could you spot me, please? You know, just old school, going out, CQ, or
And you
Or
can
work
spot
on-
yourself.
you
Go to
can.
the page and put yourself in.
Well,
If you
Well,
have
you
cell
can,
service.
if you had cell service, if you have internet service. So there's one park I used to go to, it was part of, also Bear Mountain. It was cool because the Appalachian Trail went right through it. And certain time of year, you could smell the through hikers coming because they would be coming up the hill and up and over the mountain, and they get there and they're working their way north, and they say, oh, great, only 800 more miles to Maine. And I say, man, how long you been walking? I don't know, 1,200 miles, 1,300 miles, you know, and you can't stop every so often. They'll camp or hike on the way. Maybe somebody will drop off food, or they'll meet somebody, or they'll walk into town somewhere. But that trail is a trail. And, what's cool about it is you meet some people who are really, really dedicated to doing it. Some people do what's called a through hike. They'll start in Georgia and they'll go all the way to Maine. Other people do it sections. They'll do whatever, a mile, a couple of miles, a state at a time. It's a really cool thing. One guy I met, he was a through hiker. I said, wow, how many years did it take you to plan and prepare? He said, yeah, a couple of months ago. I said, I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna walk to Maine. And sure enough, he did it. He was almost there. I said, holy cow. That was like D-Day, saying, hey, the night before, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow? Oh, let's go invade Europe. Okay, 100,000 guys, let's go. We're gonna go invade Europe. Okay. But he made it. I would imagine he made it. So, you'll see spots in there. Appalachian Trail is gonna come back to us in a moment. So, W pleasure, W fun. This is my favorite part. I'm a lazy guy. I work really hard to make things easy. And so combos, one great thing about portable operations, you can combine it with other hobbies you have. Bird watching, rock mountain climbing, trees and butterfly collecting and whatever you want, or a vacation, a family vacation. You can combine it with other activities. Contests. The coolest thing is to operate a contest from a park. You're an activator, you're in a park, you work in the contest. The other people don't care, don't know, don't want to hear about POTA. They just want that exchange. Okay, winter field day, you're operating winter field day from a park, whatever, Tracy Creek or Oakley or Susquehanna. We're gonna talk about the Susquehanna, I promise. They don't give a hoot that, what's POTA? I don't care about that POTA stuff. Just give me the exchange, next. In the meantime, you've logged all those activations, and you're in the contest. QSO,
That's a good, even though
Yeah.
they're not in it for POTA,
they don't have to get
it's
it.
still a contact.
Absolutely, they're a contact, a contact's a contact. Reminds me of a
That's a
quote.
good point.
Contact is a contact. You don't have to limit yourself to, and in fact, if you try to slow them down and say, yeah, POTA, they're gonna say, shut the, come on here. They've already done 20 QSOs in that time that, they don't want to hear about it. Just be careful of the rules of some contests you're allowed to spot or not spot or use assistance and spot. Just check, for the contest side. POTA, you're allowed to spot. POTA is so easy. QSO parties happening all the time. This weekend, in fact, there's a North American QSO party. So you can operate that. It's also for the VHF and UHF folks around here. It's an ARRL VHF UHF contest 4 times a year. It's this weekend. That is real. What's really cool about being here is we're at the confluence of 4 grid squares. The VHF and UHF contest is based on grid squares. Right now we're in Fox November 12. The others, you go a little further north, you're in Fox November 22. You go that way, Fox November 11, Fox November 31, whatever. So each time you move from grid square to grid square, you can work at the same station again. Each time you change mode, you can work the same station again. So it's a cool thing to combine those activities. POTA events. So this is this weekend also. It's a third thing going on this weekend. Support your parks. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up.
It is, no, I was just saying it is this weekend.
Yeah, this
They
this
got it
weekend, so
late.
it's another thing this weekend, is support your parks 3-4 times a year. Whether you're a hunter or an activator, you just get a little bit of wallpaper for activating it. Group activities, this is one of my favorite things. Barra does it once a year up at Shenango Valley. We could do that every day. I mean, well, I'm retired, so we could do that more often. We could do it as a group. We could do it as, just get together. On the last slide, there'll be a link and you'll see my email. Give me a shout. I mean, I'm just looking for an excuse to get up and out and get back out and do radio. And I mentioned the special event stations. Those sometimes can be very cool to operate from a park because you get that public exposure, public awareness. Sometimes it's dedicated to the park itself, it's related to the park. Other times it's just cool to be out there in the public. NFIRS, 2FIRS, 3FIRS. I've heard of a 5FIR. So what that means is, how to explain it? If a park or a trail is within another park, you get credit for both.
Like a Venn diagram.
If, like a Venn diagram, they have to overlap. A Venn diagram is the best image. There are certain requirements. So one requirement of POTA is that you're at the site, that you're there. You also cannot be on private property. If it's a trail, and here are some examples. Does that first one sound familiar to anybody? Or what do you want me to talk about?
Oh, the Susquehanna.
Susquehanna River,
Okay.
442 miles or 432 miles from Cooperstown down to Chesapeake Bay. This is Captain John Smith Chesapeake National Historic Trail. It is the Susquehanna River. So if you operate within 100 feet of the Susquehanna River or the trail, not on private property, you're in Kilo 4567. You're in a POTA site. Now, and that's a map actually of an excerpt from the National Park Service map. So the Susquehanna River goes through some other POTA sites. The closest one I found to here is in Big Bend, Pennsylvania. I think it's 5233 Harmony Road. It's the
Oh, Great Bend.
Great Bend.
Okay.
It's the Pennsylvania boat launching, canoe launching site. State game land, I think it's 035, and the river are right next to each other. So that qualifies, that counts as a twofer.
Yeah, N3CAR was right down by there.
There you go. Oh, I'm sure he's there all the time.
Is it close? No, is there also for the site at Chemung Park?
Chemung, no. I mean, wait, which one is Chemung? The one that goes to Waverly?
The one that is closer to downtown Binghamton?
Yes, so along the river, along the Susquehanna, there are several sites that are public parks or public property within 100 feet of the river. They qualify because they're close to the river.
Wait,
So even, go ahead, so even if it's like a county park, and I'm thinking Hickory.
Yeah.
And Susquehanna.
Oh, yeah, Hickory's the boat launch, Griffin,
Within 100.
you gotta be within 100 feet.
And there's, actually.
There's
every
campsites
piece-
down
every
by the
piece-
river.
There are, but every piece of your equipment has to be
Mhm.
within 100.
Yeah, and you go down to the boat launch, and
Yeah.
you go down the boat, next to the boat.
Okay,
launch.
now,
Griffin Park,
is that, okay, if you're on a riverbank, is that measured using the slope of the bank, or is it, from water's edge on a horizontal plane?
Next
Like-
question.
like-
That is one of the most hotly debated questions. And what happens when the Susquehanna is, you know,
Is dry.
is over there, when
On
it's
flood.
dry, when it's there.
When you have a flood, then your front
It
yard.
changes. You use,
Yeah.
you know, you use what we used to call the red face test. You know what? You don't take out a tape measure, you be
Common
honest,
sense.
you know, it's only yourself, you're not,
Mhm.
you know.
Okay,
So
Um,
if I go like downtown Binghamton where they have the downtown center for.
Confluence Park, yeah,
Yeah.
Confluence Park is right, because you're right next to the Susquehanna. You're right next to the Susquehanna, not the Shenango. Is it the Shenango? Yeah, so it's
yeah,
close
I
by there.
Eagle Park doesn't.
You go a little further east, there's a
Sandy Beach.
canoe launch, Sandy Beach on the other side, that's where I was told it was a little sketchy. Griffin Park, Harold Moore Park in Vestal. Griffin Park's beautiful, they got a great boat launch. Owego, Hickory, there's a couple of great places in Owego. So you could literally go, back and forth, as long as you're within 100 feet of the river, not on private property. A lot of the riverside is abandoned industrial private property, and it's a shame. But one of my favorite twofers, well, the Erie Canal Way goes from Albany to Buffalo. So it's like 400 miles wide and about this many miles high. Everything within there is in the park. Is if it's private property, okay? So everywhere public within there, it could be a city park, but you're not getting credit for the city park, you're getting credit for the canalway. Twofers and threefers.
The Montezuma National Wild Refuge is all through there.
Yeah.
You got, so many places, like that. Another one that people don't, well, there's a picture of it behind here. The Empire State Trail, Appalachian Trail is probably the best. Again, 2,100 miles. Where I used to live, I could almost walk to it. And there was a threefer, which was where three parks coincided. The Appalachian Trail, Bear Mountain, and the Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Trail all overlapped at this one spot. Unfortunately, the spot was the back of a maintenance building at the park, and you needed to pull off on the side of the road, and you had about this much room, but it was still okay. If you went over the Bear Mountain Bridge and you turned right, you'd be in another park and combination. If you turn left, you'd be in another combination. So a lot of those things out there. That's a lot of fun. It takes some detective work. Logging is very easy. My first 10,000 activations I did on paper. Wrote them down, logged them into use an application, logged them into an ADIF file, submitted them. The way you used to have to send logs into POTA was you'd send it to a area coordinator. So there would be like a 2-call coordinator or a 3-call coordinator. The 2-call coordinator happened to live down in Memphis, Tennessee. And he had the honor of being the first to activate, being the first to operate from every state capital in the US. He was the first hand to operate from every state capital. He lived down in Memphis, so you send him the log, he'd enter in the system. That's been upgraded now. You can enter your own log. You can submit your own log. The ADIF file, all it needs is the time, the date, the band, the mode, and the call sign. Just five fields of
And the park.
information. That's all you need to send the log
And
in.
park, and if it's a park to park, you gotta tell them that.
Well, so it will do some matching. You're better off if you know the park that the other person is in, putting that in there, the specific field for it. Most of the mapping software does that for you seamlessly. A twofer, if you're sending in a twofer, like if you're operating from Great bank. So I'm in 4567 and whatever the state game land in, I'll send in 2 logs. They're almost identical except for the park number that's in there. And that's how the system knows where to give you credit. This program you're familiar with is AC log, the N3 FJP. This is an interesting one, Hammers, HAMRS. It got some bad press early on, it was losing logs, it was freezing, people were a little sketchy about it. They weren't getting the support, but it's quick, easy to use. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on a laptop, do it on a tablet. It's really well geared for a POTA with the field day and for other operations. What I like about it, it has the spotting screen built right in. What I don't like about it, it doesn't do rig control, and it doesn't let you put in a spot. It doesn't let you spot itself, yourself. You have to go outside. So logging, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, here's a little my personal achievements to the point so far. So I've activated, how many is that? 322 parks, 322 unique parks. And that really stalled at the end of last year. So at the end of 2023, my goal was to get over 300, and then stuff happened in 2000 and well, what year are we in? Oh no, at the end of 2022. I just wanted to get to over 300. Then 2023 I was wiped out. So I did very little. I've done very little since then. I was in hospital, I was in rehab, I moved, then I moved again. So, but I'm not in the hospital, which is a good thing. So
What's this late and early shift?
late and early shift, good question. So late and early shift, I had to write it down. Late and early shift for us, after 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. is a late shift. Early shift, 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now that's a recent upgrade because it used to be the same for everybody throughout the world, but then it wasn't fair because, the end of the day here was the middle of the afternoon somewhere else in the world. So what they did was every time zone, whatever, every 15 degrees was a different start of the late and early shift. So for us, it's 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., 2 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Local time.
Local time. It's
But for being a hunter, if you're talking California, it's California time.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's UTC. If you look on the chart, the map, it's all based on UTC time. So late shift activations, I've been doing okay with that. Late shift hunting, I haven't been that active lately. So, park to park. I did touch on park to park. That's pretty cool. That's where I'm in one park, you're in another park. We're both activating, and that's a park to park.
Or we're in the same park.
Yes, yes, same park,
2
different
meter-
mode.
2 meter contact between me and Ford when we're in,
Who says I'm gonna talk to you?
Yeah.
whatever, but it's gotta be simplex.
Yes, that's the other rule. No repeaters except through the satellite. No repeater contacts. It's got to be all simplex.
Unless the only exception being if you're like, hey, do you want to make going on the repeater saying, hey, do you want to make a simplex contact with me on this frequency?
You're allowed, you can send the guy $1 million check and say, hey, meet me on,
Yeah, I'm
146,
saying, like,
520.
that's fine. You
That's
can't
cool.
say QSO over the repeater, QSO
Oh, no.
done, like that's
Yeah,
bad.
you
Let's say,
can-
hey, you want to meet me here?
Right, the rules are pretty simple. I mean, that was one of the things, keep it simple. That was the whole goal of the Parks on the Air program from the beginning, was to keep it simple, keep it accessible. Don't let the rules get in the way, make it clear. So entities, this is the number of other countries I've worked, the number of parks that I've worked that are in other countries. I'm only at 15. Only have activated 15 parks 15 countries that were in parks in other countries. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And I think Alaska and Hawaii. are
Alaska and Hawaii
entities.
count. right.
They're not part of the lower 48.
So
area.
it's based on the DXCC, where Alaska and Hawaii and a lot of the other islands are the other US related stuff are not considered not considered the US for DXCC. So 2 awards, there's so many awards. I mean, you don't have to do anything to get all these awards. Just send your logs in or activate or hunt or be hunters. It's all done through the software. So the 2 that I've worked at, you know, really specifically were working 10 stations, activating 10 stations, 10 activations on 10 different bands. 10 activations on 10 different bands. Not all that easy,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. It took me some time, and you know, what were the hardest ones? The 2 meter, the 2 meter and 440. What did I do? The VHF contest counted towards that. That helped. That helped me get those 2 meter and 6 meter and 440 contacts in there, and the others. The other was there's a specific 6 meter. It's working. I forget whether it's 10 stations or 6 stations on 6 meters, and that was pretty cool. You know, because those you really had to target, and I would, you know, have the spreadsheet, and I'd say, okay, for this park, that park, I need these particular bands to make sure I got it. Let's see.
You yourself have quite the impressive list of awards on your page.
Oh, it's like, I gotta scroll past it. It's like, you know, no.
Oh,
I was thinking of renting another wall, just, you know, so what's the old joke? You know, you got a big family, you need another refrigerator door, just for all the kids' pictures and everything. So what are my goals? You know, I told you my goal at the end of 2022 was to get to 300 parks, and I think it was 1,500 or 1,800 hunting sites. 2023, you know, out of control. Get off my whatever and spend more time on my feet. Doing things like that, getting more involved with people, you know, having fun. Keeping the New Jersey list, and that's all based on feedback and input. Now, if you have suggestions or comments on the New York sites, you can send it to me, or you can send it to the New York mapping coordinator, who's a really good guy. You know, I could forward it to him. Get better organized, get better with CW. I mean, it's been 35, 40 years since I operated CW, and it's like many things you forget, you get out of practice, and you know, antennas. That should have been number 1. You know, hit all the sites in New Jersey, have fun, and help people. You don't have to write these down, because the next slide should not do that. Well, I don't know where that went. Oh, I must have clicked on the wrong thing. So I wanted to go to the next slide. I don't know where I went. So you know what? The next slide was simply, thank you. And let me just show you, there is a QR code. Oh, I know what I did. Yeah. Let's see if I can move that out of the way.
Oh, here it is.
Okay, so that was the same QR code that was at the beginning. And then what that will do is send you a link to a PDF version of this presentation. It has all the links in it and everything. Or you can just email me, stvrossman@gmail.com. And
It works, I got it.
yeah, it does. Because there's a lot more to it. So the biggest thing, if you're into POTA, POTA.app, go down to the reference section. And how are we fixed for time? Are we like, it's really late?
I'll put it out in the newsletter.
Yeah. If if you put that link up there, would be awesome. It is,
I had a question.
yes,
What I was thinking all along is every place I go to operate,
My question in my head is, am I gonna be heard from here? Is this place gonna be terrible or is this place gonna be great? You know, I'd rather go to Hilltops.
Right.
and operate from there. You mentioned the river stuck down there in the valley might not necessarily be. What do you see when you go to a site? How do you feel how well the propagation is gonna be?
You know what, they're in digital, I didn't even talk about digital on this. In digital, it's really easy, because you can see right away, you can go to PSK Reporter and see where your signal is getting to. I've not gone to a lot of places where I did not get good reception, or
Okay.
for one reason or another. And you can tell right away. You go to the spotting page. I've done some activations just park to park. I've just done some activations where I've gone through that spotting page
Yeah.
and clicked on each one and worked them. Hey, CQ, whatever, park to park, KA2YRA, park to park. And they tend to, you kind of get to the head of the list. When you're calling CQ, it's just a nice thing. When you're calling CQ POTA, it's nice every once in a while to say, hey, are there any park to park stations out there, or any QRP stations, any mobile stations? QRP especially, because they're gonna get buried otherwise.
Yeah.
A few times, I've had to go to numbers, okay, one call sign, two calls area, not all that often, but it's hit or miss. It's like anything, and you can tell right away by seeing how the bands are. And so what happens if I can't get to 10? I may go to digital, or if I can't spot myself, I may go to digital. And again, you could work anybody, and it counts towards your activation.
You carry a brochure to hand out to the public?
I used to, yeah, I didn't update it. There is on the POTA app, there is a trifold brochure.
What power do you usually run, Steve?
Too much. So I started QRP, and I thought it was really cool, that extra challenge. And I ran QRP with the 817 for a couple of years. Then I got an 857 and I said, oh man, I can go wild. But now I'm cranking it down because I'm running off the battery. It's a lithium ion, it's a 50 amp hour lithium ion, but still it's not infinite, and don't need all that power. I find the power doesn't really make that big a difference. The antenna, number one, antenna. I have more antennas than I need. That you can only use a few at a time. My quick and dirty one is a ham stick. A ham stick on a mag mount or on a trunk mount. A ham stick dipole, 2 ham sticks on the same band, with that dipole adapter. End-fed half wave, end-fed random wire, buddy dipole makes a nice set. Just a vertical wrapped wire. It depends where I am. It depends on how long I want to stay there. Like if I want to get in and out, like if I want to hit 5 or 10 parks in a day, which I usually don't because I get up too late and I'm kind of lazy getting going in the morning, but by the time I'm up and ready to go, it's already like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's dark out. But for doing those quick roves, where you really want to zoom through, the ham stick is a good one. It's a good choice. So I encourage and I ask, input and feedback on sites that you see, questions you have, whether New York, New Jersey, or anywhere. Get out, get on the air, get out of the house, leave your significant others, give them a break. Don't be doing a laundry or vacuuming. There's better things to do. The dishes will still be dirty when you get back. Don't quote me on that. But reach out to me. I'd be glad to, unfortunately, Barrett, we've only done like 2 group POTA activities up at Shenango Valley. We could do that every month or every couple of months.
There's also a POTA Slack that people can hop in and say, hey, I'm gonna be here at this time,
Yes.
this frequency, or anybody
Yes.
out there at this time, or so on and so forth.
And that's thanks for the reminder.
And
So
helpful hints and stuff too.
the Slack, Discord, there's a Facebook page, there's some other social media sites that are really, really good for.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, guys, that are really good for communicating. And those links are actually in the POTA document, site. The POTA document site. So hopefully get to see and hear and work all you guys out in the field. And I'll try to stay out of mud and snow and, you know.
Seasonal roads.
Seasonal roads.
Seasonal roads, now I know what they mean, now you guys take that seriously up here, no fooling, no fooling.
In your particular case, you might want to get one of those GPS communicators where you can shoot off a quick text or get location updates, because the device itself is like less than $200, and then the monthly subscription is tiny.
listen to
him, I think he needs a winch.
Well,
I mean, hey, that works too, if you gotta be able to do it. I got a Prius, I can't winch on a.
no, I need to follow my dad's advice, he World War II, Purple Heart, D-Day, he lived till mid-90s, and he said, never go somewhere where you don't want to break down, you know, where you don't want your car to break down. And it worked, that, you know, served them well over those many years. And I don't listen to that advice, but, you know,
Some of the new iPhones work through Starlink,
yes,
so if you're out in the middle of nowhere without service, you can at least text.
that's a good thing. That is good. And I've become, in my wiser, older years now, become a little wiser and a lot older, but, being more careful.
But
And
there's
you
also-
mentioned, you know, situational awareness, personal safety, you know, there were places I would go in the city where it was not cool, or places in the country where it was not cool, you know, it's different dangers. I only left one place, I only left one site, one time. I forget, it was one of the Pennsylvania game lands. It was pitch black, and I'm hearing noises in the woods. And I don't know who or what is out there, and I was like, like I said, fat Jewish kid from Brooklyn, doesn't need to run into, whatever's running wild.
You were thinking about the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, you know, and the music was playing. It's actually the music from Jaws, and that's, you know, but I saw what's a shark doing in the middle of the woods. But hey, I encourage everyone to, you know, let's do more as a group or individually, and enjoy.
An electric fence does not make a good antenna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Little housekeeping, if I could have a hand, just putting chairs back against the wall, help. Back a little bit, sorry.
I don't know.
Paul and Steve, thank you very much for the, help with the, Gary, of course, thank you very much. Hey, Drew, do you have
Yeah.
anything final to
No,
say?
I just want to say thank you, Steve, for that great presentation, and you know, we'll send a link in the next meeting minutes so that you can